Blind obedience is more dangerous than evil itself. Imagine a teacher, a doctor, or a police officer doing something they know is wrong just because they were told to. Now imagine a million people doing the same thing. That's not law and order. That's collapse. Nietzsche warned us this would happen. Bonhoeffer lived and died proving him right. By the end of this video, you'll see how blind morality keeps people weak, and how you can break free from it. Here's something weird. Most of history's worst crimes weren't committed by monsters. They were carried out by people following orders. People who thought they were being good. Nietzsche called this the slave morality trap. Bonhoeffer called it stupidity in action. Here's what you'll learn today. Why obedience is often cowardice in disguise. How being good can lead to evil. What Nietzsche believed about morality and why it's not what you think. Bonhoeffer's warning to future generations. And one uncomfortable question: are you free or just compliant? This matters now more than ever, because the trap isn't obvious until it's too late. Picture this. A nurse sees a policy change. The new rule says she can't speak up even if the patient is at risk. Her gut says it's wrong. Her training says it's wrong. But the system says, follow the rules. So she does, and the patient dies. She sleeps badly for weeks, but everyone tells her, you did the right thing. This is not rare. It's not even surprising. It's what happens when people confuse morality with obedience. Nietzsche warned us this was baked into Western thinking. We were taught to obey first, think later. To follow rules, not conscience. Morality is the herd instinct in the individual. Bonhoeffer took it further. Stupidity is a more dangerous enemy of the good than malice. In other words, the problem isn't evil people. It's obedient ones. People who don't question, don't resist, don't even notice when things go wrong. Morality is a power game. Let's rip the band-aid off. Nietzsche didn't see morality as sacred. He saw it as a tool used by the weak to control the strong. The slave revolt in morality begins when resentment becomes creative. What does that mean? It means that when powerless people can't win with strength, they redefine good to mean weakness. Being obedient becomes virtuous. Being passive becomes moral. Disagreeing becomes sin. Sound familiar? It's the system saying, don't think, don't resist, just comply and feel righteous about it. Example: someone speaks up at work. They're told they're disruptive. HR writes them up, but the guy who does nothing, he gets promoted because he's a team player. That's slave morality in action. Nietzsche's point wasn't to be cruel. It was to be awake. He wanted you to see who benefits when you stay silent. Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster. Obedience feels safer than freedom. Here's where it gets darker. Bonhoeffer saw it firsthand in Nazi Germany. People didn't wake up evil. They just stopped thinking. In this stupidity, there is not a lack of intelligence, but a lack of independence. It's easier to go with the flow, to follow orders, to just do your job. Because if you obey, you don't have to decide. You don't have to take responsibility. But that's exactly how horrors happen. Nietzsche again. Freedom is the will to be responsible for ourselves. You might be thinking, yeah, but what can one person do? That's exactly what the system wants you to believe. Example: a government passes a law targeting a group. Most people disagree but say nothing. A few speak out then disappear. The silence grows. By the time people wake up, it's too late. In a state where corruption abounds, laws must be very numerous. Bonhoeffer, you see the pattern? Systems reward obedience, but freedom means risk. It means you think for yourself even when it costs you. The summary is this. Obedience feels safe, but it's the fastest way to lose your soul. What comes next might surprise you, because Nietzsche wasn't just tearing things down. He believed there was a way out. And Bonhoeffer? He didn't just warn us. He acted and paid the price. Real morality is rebellion. Most people think rebellion is loud, angry, chaotic. But Nietzsche saw it differently. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. The real rebellion? Living by your own values 7 when everyone around you doesn't. You might be wondering, wait, isn't that selfish? Not necessarily. It's about being brutally honest with yourself. It's about choosing what's right, not what's expected. Think about someone like Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He could have stayed quiet. He was a respected theologian. He had a way out. Instead, he joined a plot to resist Hitler knowing it could kill him. He said, "Action springs not from thought, but from a readiness for responsibility." Responsibility, not obedience. That's the difference. You're in a group chat at work. Someone makes a joke that's racist, sexist, whatever. Nobody says anything. You want to speak up, but it's easier to stay quiet. That tiny moment, that's where rebellion begins. Not with shouting, but with refusing to play along. The crowd will betray you. This one stings. Nietzsche never trusted the masses. Insanity in individuals is rare, but in groups, parties, nations, and epochs, it is the rule. Bonhoeffer saw it up close. Churches went silent. Teachers repeated lies. Judges enforced evil. And millions of ordinary people just went along with it. Why? Because the crowd makes you feel safe, even when it's sprinting off a cliff. Let's bring this to now. Ever posted an unpopular opinion online? What happened? Probably some version of mockery, silence, or worse, outrage. We're wired to want approval, but Nietzsche warned, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. You might be thinking, but I don't want to be alone. Fair. No one does. But here's the twist. You're already alone if the people around you would drop you the second you stop agreeing with them. That's not community. That's control. Bonhoeffer put it this way. Silence in the face of evil is itself evil. So the question is, would you rather be accepted for being silent or rejected for speaking the truth? A student questions a school policy that hurts vulnerable kids. The room goes quiet. The teacher shrugs. The rest pretend they didn't hear. That's not peace. That's fear. And fear is how moral slavery survives. The crowd won't save you, but your voice might save someone else. Let's pause. What if the rules you follow are the very thing holding you back? What if being a good person is just code for someone who never rocks the boat? And what if the price of obedience is your soul? You might be thinking, this feels extreme. It is, because the stakes are real. Now, let's tackle some thought-provoking questions. What rules do you follow just to stay liked? When was the last time you disagreed publicly with something that mattered? Would you break the law to do the right thing? And maybe the hardest, if the system collapsed tomorrow, would your values still matter? You might be wondering, okay, But how do I know which rules to break? We'll get there. But first, you need to see the machine for what it is. What comes next might challenge you, because escaping moral slavery isn't just about saying no. It's about building something better in its place. And that's where both Nietzsche and Bonhoeffer converge. Responsibility, risk, integrity, not comfort. Let's be honest. Everything we've talked about sounds good in theory. Be bold, think for yourself, resist the crowd. But applying it, that's hard. Really hard. Because this philosophy costs you. You lose comfort. You might lose status. Sometimes you lose people. He who would learn to fly one day must first learn to stand and walk and run and climb and dance. One cannot fly into flying. Nietzsche, here's the challenge. Most of us were trained from childhood to obey. We were taught that good people stay quiet, that questioning authority is dangerous, that going against the group is arrogant. So when you try to break out, expect backlash. Before and after moment. Let's say you stop agreeing just to fit in. At first, it's tense. You lose some friends. Work becomes awkward. But then, you sleep better. You feel lighter. You stop pretending. And maybe, just maybe, someone sees your example and finds their own voice too. When you look long into an abyss, the abyss also looks into you. That's the risk. And the reward. You might be thinking, but what if I'm wrong? Good. That's how growth works. But I don't want to argue all the time. You don't have to. You just have to be honest. But isn't this selfish? Only if you're doing it for ego, not truth. But what if no one listens? Bonhoeffer still spoke, even when he knew he might die. He said, "Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act." What can you do today? Here's one simple action. Name one rule you follow just to avoid discomfort. That's it, one. Write it down. Ask yourself who benefits from it. Then ask if you really believe it. It could be anything. I don't speak up in meetings. I always agree with my parents. I pretend I'm okay with things I'm not. If it's fear, not truth, that's your first break in the wall. You don't need to fix everything today, but the first crack matters. The snake which cannot cast its skin has to die, as well the minds which are prevented from changing their opinions, they cease to be mind. So what now? Let's recap. Nietzsche taught us that obedience can be a form of fear, not virtue. Bonhoeffer warned us that silence makes us complicit, even if we don't mean to be. True morality isn't following the rules, it's taking responsibility. The crowd? It won't protect you, but your courage might protect someone else. This isn't about being rebellious for the sake of it. It's about becoming someone who lives by truth, not pressure. And that truth will cost you. The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly.